Shri Ganesha Sharada Gurubhyo Namaha Agajanana Padmarkam Gajananam Maharnisham Anekadam Tam Bhaktanam Ekadantam Upasmahi. Welcome to all for this session on Ganesha Purana to chapter 75. In the previous part of this Ganesha Purana, from the previous chapters, Indra was telling the story of importance of Chaturthi, Sankashtahara Ganesha Chaturthi to Shurasena and was telling him if someone who performed the Sankasta Chaturthi vratha, if they donate the benefit of that vratha to me, then with that virtue, the divine vehicle which is dropped to earth for some reason, it will be able to rise back to the heaven. And then he told about Kritavirya, who has performed the same and has got Kartavirya, who later went on to become Sahasrarjuna. And in the meanwhile, he also narrated the story of Angaraka Chaturthi as well as the importance of Durva. Now, after listening to all these things, Vyasa, who was listening this story from Brahma, he asked, what did Shurasena, enjoyer of the earth, do after he had diligently listened to that excellent tale from Indra's mouth? For that Brahma replied, he then sent to the messengers, go to the city and bring a performer of the vratha of the Sankashtahara Chaturthi. The messengers departed quickly and inquired in house after house. While wandering about, they saw that a beautiful, auspicious flying vehicle had arrived. It had been sent by Ganesha's messengers in order to take one particular woman, an evil Chandala woman, her mouth oozing leprous muck, evil smelling because of the mass of insects and flies on her. Her belly shrunken, her hair long, her nose and cheek orangutan, filthy, dirty, her ear holes long and her voice coarse. Thinking that this was extraordinary, the king's messengers, having bowed to her, spoke to Gajanana's servants, the messengers of the god. The messengers told them, she is utterly contemptible and poorly bred. This is told by the king's messengers. Utterly contemptible and poorly bred. How can she go to heaven? O messengers from Ganesha Loka, who was she previously and how did she become like this? How did you bring her to heaven? By what merit? If it can be told to us, tell us everything. The god's messengers replied back. In the Bangala region, there was a warrior named Sarangadhara, whose beautiful daughter was named Sundara. Her voice was that of a cuckoo. Her face was like the moon, and in loveliness she surpassed Rati. 8 cultivated noble ladies were not worthy enough to function as her servants. With a mere glance, she would infatuate the heart even of yogis, and just by glancing at her lovely body, some young men ejaculated seven. Infatuating everyone, she became deeply involved in the ways of prostitutes, and in her very costly clothes and ornaments, she offered a variety of sensual enjoyments. In the city of Bangala, she became famous as a quite shameless prostitute. She constantly deceived her husband Chitranama by profligately spending incalculable wealth his father had previously accumulated. On one occasion at midnight, after she had left him in bed, he angrily disturbed her when she was beautifully dressed and forcibly held on to her hand, abusing her Chitranama. Her husband then said, "Damn you, O wicked woman! You always have lovers." After hearing his statement, she became angry in herself and then utterly furious because she could not enjoy what she should have enjoyed. And in the blind darkness, seizing a dagger in her right hand, she split open his belly and he fell to the ground. Then she went to make love with the man who was the paramour of her heart, and while she was making love there, a neighbor who was awake, becoming aware of her behavior, went and reported it to the king. The messengers standing in the darkness until she returned to her house. The king's messengers seized and led her to the king, and with the king's permission, the messengers took her outside and then killed her. Now, in the meantime, Yama's messengers led her into a terrible hell where, at his command, she stood face downwards, much bitten by the worms. Remembering her previous behavior, she experienced extreme pain, and at the end of the kalpa, she became an utterly disgusting Chandala woman in the world of mortals. But on one occasion, she became drunk after drinking some liquor and slept all day. But at the first watch of night, she awoke terribly hungry. Right away, she went to beg at the house of a person who was performing a vratha. She ate the food he gave to her, and at moonrise, due to the power of fate, she spontaneously muttered, "Ganesha, Ganesha." Straight away, Gananatha sent her the auspicious flying vehicle. So here, the only virtuous thing that she had done was, by mistake, spontaneously, she muttered the words name of Ganesha a couple of times. That much would have been more than enough for a Chandala woman who had all the misfortune in her life, and she was terribly hungry because the whole day she had not eaten anything, and in the night she went and begged for the food. And at that time, somebody who was performing the Sankasta Chathurthi vratha, they offered the Ganesha's Prasada to her, and that itself she ate it late after the moonrise. After they had heard the speech of the God's messenger and had bowed to them, they spoke again. The king's messengers, King Shurasena's messengers, told her, "We saw that extraordinary thing while we were performing our duties. The king had prescribed this command for us. Listen to it. Shakra or Indra got on his excellent flying vehicle in order to see Gritsamada. I'm sorry, it's basically he had gone to see Brushundi. He came with the gods to Brushundi, and after he had seen him and bowed to him, he honored him. And after receiving his worship and his farewell, he set out for his own city. But almost right after he began moving, his vehicle fell into Shurasena's city because of the glance of a merchant's leprous son. Shurasena went there, and after he had made obeisance and worshipped him, he asked why the flying vehicle fell and how it would move again. For that, the Indra replied, saying thus, this flying vehicle will start again by virtue of the merit produced by the vratha of the Sankasta Chathurthi. So perform it diligently for this purpose. At the king's command, we, his messengers, came to look for it. O messengers of the god, if she is to perform this vratha, she must now brought to Shurasena, the king. This Chandala woman will impart the prosperity that arises from the Sankasta Chathurthi vratha. Possessing two lots of merit, he will return to her flying vehicle, and Indra's flying vehicle too will return to his own city. If this task is done, when it is completed, it will be pleasing to you, to her, to us, to the king, as well to Indra, Shachi's husband. After they had heard their speech, the god's servant said, Ganesha has commanded us not to give her away to anyone else. When they had said this, they got up and quickly put her in the flying vehicle, and straightway she became a truly celestial maiden, wearing celestial garments and ornaments on her body. To the sounds of celestial instruments, the gods' messengers brought her to Ganesha, and as she had gone, the king's messengers went to Shurasena and told him all the news. As soon as they had spoken, the Chandala woman's vehicle suddenly came, and they noticed that it was shining and illuminating the regions and directions. Incidentally, the Chandala woman, who has now become a celestial woman wearing celestial garments and ornaments, sitting in that heavenly vehicle, her glance fell on Indra's vehicle, and through contact with the rushing air of her flying vehicle, Indra's flying vehicle went low while all the people, sages and gods, were watching amazed. Now that Indra had gone to Amaravati, they all went to their own homes, and she too, in possession of a celestial body, reached Ganesha's home, having lost all of her evil because of the merit accruing from the Chaturthi of Sankastahara Ganesha Sankastahara Ganesha Chaturthi. In fact, the only meritorious. She was not knowing anything about that Sankastahara Chaturthi Vrata. Incidentally, on that day she was fasting, and late in the night she went for begging, and incidentally she got the Ganesha Prasada from someone who has done Sankasta Chaturthi Vrata on that day, and that she ate, and spontaneously she muttered the name of Ganesha a few times, and that was enough for her not only to attain the Ganesha lok, but also as soon as her glance fell on Indra's divine flying vehicle, that flying vehicle got cleared of the problems, and then immediately it went floating, taking all the gods along with Indra to the heaven. The man who should hear or relate this correctly and diligently will attain all his wishes, and his troubles will be removed. Thus ends the 75th chapter of Upasana Khanda of the glorious Ganesha Purana, called in which Ganesha Purana, in which we heard the story wherein the king's messengers went around in the city searching for anyone who has done the Sankasta Chaturthi Vrata at the order of their king. But incidentally, while they were wandering here and there, finding no one has done that Sankasta Chaturthi Vrata, they saw a heavenly vehicle coming there to pick up a Chandala woman who was in a very bad state. When they inquired the great deed she had done, which had made her eligible to reach the Ganesha's heaven, the god's messengers told them that she was fasting on the day of Sankasta Chaturthi, and in the night she got the Ganesha Prasada, and she muttered the name of Ganesha a few times, and that much is enough for the Chandala woman to reach the Ganesha's loka. Namaste Sharada Devi, Kashmir Puravasini, Twamaham Prarthaye Nityam. Vidyadanancha Dehime. Goodbye.